The new 2024 Polestar 2 just got a price. It's actually pretty good. Here are the details, and here's why I think you should consider this electric car from Volvo, really from Geely. Now, I'm sorry to hurt anyone's feelings who really think that Volvo and Polestar are actually Swedish car companies. They no longer are. Anyhow, hello my friends. Welcome to the channel. It's great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Sam Evans. Welcome to all the new subscribers and welcome back everyone else. Now, I'm in Thailand at the moment, but just booked some flights back to Australia. It's about time we got back, and actually my visa's running out. They won't let me stay any longer. True story. Basically, I'm being forced out. So I'll be back in Australia for a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to it. Even though it's winter there, it should be good to be in the cold. Be a bit of a change, actually, to feel the cold. The only way I feel the cold here now is if I turn the air conditioner up really, really high. Polestar 2. Interestingly, the Polestar vehicles are quite popular in some markets, especially in their niche, basically luxury car niche. They're beating some other brands that have multiple models in some countries. In fact, in quite a number of different countries, they're beating Genesis, for example, a number of different luxury brands. So the Polestar 2 is selling quite well. In fact, it would sell a lot better if they actually supplied more of them. That's the key here. More supply means more sales for Volvo. For Polestar. Now, if you don't know the history of Polestar, Polestar was actually the tuning brand of Volvo. So I've owned a fair few Volvos. I always wanted the Polestar tuned version. It's sort of like having the M version of the BMW. Get the BMW M or the Mercedes AMG, and that's what was really the ideal. That's what you wanted. Now, to be honest, the Polestar versions were never really that great. They never got great reviews. They're okay, but not really that compelling. It wasn't until Polestar manufactured EVs that we really saw what the company could do. And actually, it really turned them into a brand in a way that no one would have ever predicted. Polestar has announced its US pricing for the 2024 Polestar 2. And it's actually much cheaper to buy in Australia. I was surprised to see this. Way cheaper to buy the Polestar 2 in Australia. Very strange. Anyhow, what is the price? Well, here in Australia, the price for the latest version is $63,900. It's only $3,000 more than a Tesla Model 3. And you've got to admit, that's a really good price for what is a very good car. You can see why owners are saying a lot of positive things about them. Fair call. It's actually good value. And when you compare it spec for spec to, say, other cars from competing brands, BMW, Mercedes, Audi, etc., well, actually, it puts them to shame based on a value proposition. So $63,900, but that's Australian dollars. That works out to only around $40,000 US dollars. Unfortunately, in the United States, the price is $51,000 US dollars for the cheapest variant. So the new version actually has some significant improvements, including styling tweaks. I don't think many people will actually notice those. It has more range, new motors, enhanced performance, and increased standard equipment. It's better value, to be fair. It is, and it's a better car. The 2024 Polestar 2 long-range single motor starts at $51,300. The long-range dual motor costs $56,700. Both prices include a $1,400 destination fee in the US. Now, we don't have that destination fee nonsense, fortunately, in Australia. So, yeah, it makes it even cheaper again. So what this means, though, is that both models are more expensive than the previous Polestar 2. In fact, the rear-wheel drive version is $1,500 more, and the all-wheel drive version is $3,400 more. Unfortunately, they're not really competitive on price in the US. And the reason for that is simply the fact that they don't qualify for the IRA's tax incentives of $7,500. Now, I know that not everyone qualifies for that. Not everyone can get that $7,500 incentive. So if you can't get it, well, yeah, it's actually very competitive on price. But if you can, it's not really going to be in your ballpark of interest, I would suggest, because, of course, the equivalent Tesla Model Y is quite a lot cheaper, about $10,000 if you include that incentive. As with the Volvo XC40, and the C40 Recharge, both Polestar 2 variants have next generation electric motors and inverters that are said to have increased efficiency and performance. So the car isn't any lighter. That's one of the issues with this car. It's quite heavy, but it does have greater efficiency and performance because of improved motors. The single motor variant is now rear wheel drive. Isn't that interesting, right? first time Polestar, Volvo, all of a sudden, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive only in their whole history. All of a sudden they went, no, we're going to change. No more front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive only. That's what they've said. No more front-wheel drive. I made a video about this and I keep on harping about it, but you've got to see that video to see why manufacturers are doing this. Why they're not making front-wheel drive cars anymore, front-wheel drive EVs anymore. Front-wheel drive cars, yeah, they're fine. Internal combustion engine cars, they make sense. When it comes to EVs, actually, they don't make as much sense as rear-wheel drive. The new motor has a power output of 295 horsepower. That's 220 kilowatt and maximum torque of 361 pound-feet or 490 newton meters. So Australians, Kiwis, everyone else who uses the metric system, that is 220 kilowatt and about 500 newton meters. Plenty of power. And a massive improvement over the previous version. That means it has 68 horsepower or 50 kilowatt and 118 pound-feet or 160 newton meters more power and torque than the previous version. That's a massive, massive difference. These motors clearly are way better than the other version. I love it when manufacturers do stuff like this. It's great to see these kinds of quick changes. Now, think about it like this, right? Imagine a car manufacturer comes along in, say, 2005, 2010, 2015 and says, oh, for not much money, not a lot of money, like maybe what, 20 million, $10 million, we've improved the power and the efficiency at the same time by this much of our gasoline or diesel powered engines. You wouldn't believe them. You'd think, no, that must have cost you billions, because manufacturers would traditionally spend billions to do this, to get this kind of result. Even then they wouldn't get this result. They'd be happy with a 2 to 5% improvement. This is way bigger than that. And this is why EVs will be so disruptive, because people are still so short-sighted. We have this whole thing where I do it all the time. What is it called? Recency bias. Whatever's happening last month or now is what affects our judgment the most. It's very hard for us to see into the future. That's why I commonly criticize the CEOs of automotive companies, the ones who are very short-sighted. They can only see 12 months into the future. And if that's obvious, you shouldn't be the CEO of a big company. You shouldn't be. Anyhow, another story. Performance has improved as well. The single motor version does 0 to 62 miles an hour, which is 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, in 5.9 seconds. And the dual motor version does it in 4.8 seconds. The rear-wheel drive Polestar 2 also gets a new, bigger battery pack. It's an 82 kilowatt hour size pack that has an EPA range of 320 miles. That's an increase of 50 miles over the previous model. 320 miles, that's quite a lot of range. In fact, that's about 540 kilometers of range. So it's more range than most of its competitors in this price bracket. Very impressive that they've been able to come away and only raise the prices by this small amount to make a much, much better car. You can clearly see just from these numbers here. I love stats. I love these kinds of numbers, especially when they can very quickly and easily show you that now this is a much more compelling car. In the past, I didn't recommend this car, to be honest. Now, based on these numbers alone, I would say you've got to have a look at it. It's absolutely worth your time checking out this car now. The dual motor version, of course, now has two motors, rear motor and a front motor. However, it primarily works on the rear motor. And of course, when power is needed for all wheels, the front motor springs into action. Together though, the motors produce 415 horsepower, 310 kilowatt and 546 pound-feet of torque, or 740 newton meters. That's a significant increase. The previous model had 402 horsepower and 300 kilowatt and 487 pound-feet of torque, which is 650 newton meters. So not a huge increase in terms of actual power. I mean, power has only increased by 10 kilowatt, which is around 13 horsepower. Torque though, that's where the difference you can see here is going to be significant. Torque has gone up by around 80 newton meters. That's quite a difference. So my previous numbers were wrong. Sorry, I've read that wrong information. I've just found out the right time for the 0 to 62, 0 to 100 sprint, which is 4.3 seconds. Actually, that's 0 to 60, so that's about 0 to 97. 4.3 seconds. Anyway, either way, it's more than fast enough. However, there's one reason you shouldn't consider getting this car. One very compelling reason you should cross it off your list. If this thing matters for you, it does matter for me. It's the reason that I wouldn't buy this car. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy it, but if this matters for you, then you shouldn't. If boot capacity matters for you, it's not the car for you. You need something else. You need something like a Ioniq 5 or a Tesla Model Y. They've got a much bigger boot. The boot size is 400 liters. not a lot bigger than, say, a Volkswagen Golf hatchback boot, which is 370 litres. So what's that? About not even 10% bigger than the Volkswagen Golf boot. So not real big, not real practical boot. If that doesn't matter for you, you absolutely should look at this car. What else do we know about it? Well, the EPA range for the dual motor version is quite a bit lower, 276 miles, but that is a 16-mile improvement over the previous model. It's got the same 78 kilowatt hour battery as its predecessor, and to try to improve that range, it now enables, like I said before, the ability to turn off that front motor, which is generally how you'd be driving, unless you're driving in the snow or something like that. But yeah, I'm a little bit surprised at this range. You're getting a range penalty of 34 miles by having that front motor. So that's quite a difference. That's what, over 50 kilometers decline in range by having that extra motor on the front. But either way, I still think it's got some pretty good range. However, the only thing worth keeping in mind is that does bring the range down to a pretty similar figure to the Tesla Model Y all-wheel drive if you're in the US. That model has 279 miles of range. And of course, it is a little bit cheaper than that. But some people might perceive this as being more exclusive, maybe a bit more luxurious, and that's very possible. So it's definitely worth considering that as well. Now, when you look at the price, actually, if you think about it, in some ways, it's cheaper. Now, I said it's more expensive because it is, but now they actually are including a thing called the Pilot Pack as standard. It previously was a $3,400 US option. That includes pilot assist driver assistance aids, adaptive cruise control, emergency stop assist, rear collision warning, mitigation, and LED front fog lights with cornering function. Now, those things probably should have been standard before. I don't know if I called them out in my previous video, because if I didn't, I should have, because they absolutely should be standard. But the point is here, if you think about it, if you had to pay that extra $3,400 before and you don't anymore, then both models are actually cheaper. They have more range and they have more power. And this car, in my opinion, just got a lot better at less money. Technically it is less money. Now, US viewers, even though this car is more expensive than what it costs in Australia, primarily because it's manufactured in China, I should tell you, it's still worth your time. Definitely check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching.